The opinions and views expressed in the following program are those of the speakers and the host, and do not necessarily reflect those of Yoakley Scott Corporation and your sports network.
Yeah, I've been closer to Jesus before, so can you help me out? Oh, can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? But can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? Or can you help me out? Can you help me out? I've been scared to look in my soul. I've been afraid I would follow the road. Yeah, afraid of the things I've been told.
Hello, everybody. Welcome inside a Monday. What a start to the week, right? Welcome inside a Monday episode of Running Point on YSNLive.com. Brought to you, as always, by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austin Town. I'm going to go ahead and put them in the top right-hand corner of the screen so you know where to go if you are in the market for a new or used vehicle. Make sure to check out our good friends over at Greenwood Chevrolet in Austin Town. They go the extra mile for you, so you don't have to. We try to do the same here on this show every single day. Player profiles, coaches' corners, exclusive interviews, etc. They're all on this show every day, and that's a way that we go the extra mile for you. The same way that Greenwood does if you're in the market for a new or used vehicle. Check them out. No one will take better care of you. We had a wild weekend. We have regional set in girls basketball. We have district set in boys basketball. The more days go by, the more teams fall, the more teams we have to say goodbye to and congratulate on a great season. And the cream of the crop rises, right? We have one girls team left. I know that's kind of sad. Not what we wanted. We had a lot of opportunities on Saturday for, district champions and in getting teams in regionals, but we have one. And it was the one that we were guaranteed one in. We had no YSN team beat a non-YSN team in the district finals to get into the regional. We'll talk about that and some of the reasons that is and some of the reasons why we went from a year last year, just 1 year ago, where we had, 1, 2, 3, 4, I think 4 or 5 teams in regionals, if I'm not mistaken. Springfield, Western Reserve, Garfield, Canfield are the 4 that I'm thinking of last year that went to regionals. If I'm missing one, oh geez, I apologize. But man, we've seen a lot of sports since last March. I'll tell you that much. But we'll go over one of the reasons why I think that is. I think it's a glaring, obvious reason why our teams that are in regional dropped, significantly this year. And then we'll talk about the boys' games on Friday and Saturday as well. Their districts are set for this week. So we're going to recap it all. We're also going to have a player profile featured today. We had a couple of player profiles get recorded and posted right before those district championship games. So we're going to make sure they get featured as well, just like everybody does. We start with Marina Koenig from Canfield. Great interview with her. And we'll have that featured on today's show towards the second half of the schedule. So let's hop into the scoreboard on ysnlive.com without further ado and see where this ride took us. We'll start on Friday, hop back into the past a couple of days, and this is mainly going to be boys basketball for their sectional finals, getting in the districts, and it looked like this. Edgewood against Gilmore Academy kicks us off, and the Warriors get the win over the Lancers, 77-67. It's got to feel good for Edgewood getting into districts, both boys and girls, both winning their sectional finals. Girls first time since 2015, I think. They were able to call themselves sectional champions, and only the second time in program history, if you look at their banner in their gym. We have Poland advancing over Canton South Final score there was 59-49, so 2 10-point games to start us off. Keystone gets the upset of LeBray. This one was a tough one to handle, but LaGrange Keystone wins by 1, 55-54. Not the way LeBray won in their season, of course, but a tough Keystone team comes to town and gets a close victory. Canfield, no problems against Conneaut, 97-29. They get the win, their final home game as well of the season. South Range also wins in the final game of the Thriller Dome until next fall when the volleyball team opens back up, 74-49 over Garrettsville Garfield. Warren JFK all over Maplewood, 79-33. The final, an upset in Badger as Heartland Christian goes on the road and gets a 72-65 7-point win. The Lions are moving on. Ursuline has no trouble with Cleveland Lincoln West. It is 74-13, your final score there. West Branch did have a little bit of trouble early with East Tech, but were able to pull away eventually, 62-49. No upsets awarded in West Branch. Cheney gave a heck of a fight to Villa St. Joe's on the road, but eventually VASJ gets the win in this one, 71-67. Your final score. Overtime in Jefferson as Benedictine brought a heck of a fight into Ashtabula County, but Jefferson's able to survive in OT, 71-64. Joey DeGeorge with that big shot from distance to tie up the game at the end of regulation, force overtime, and then Jefferson handles overtime with a 7-point win. Howland went on the road to Madison and pulls off a massive upset. Look at this, 72-43. That wasn't even close. You go on the road and you're the lower seed, and you do that. That's impressive. The Tigers striding at the right time. Orange's season comes to an end as they were at Canal Fulton Northwest, 73-49. The final scores there. We have Canton Central Catholic beating Liberty 63-41. That's that final. Campbell Memorial saw this game slip away against Lake Catholic. It was a game where Campbell had a lead at halftime, 8-point lead. In fact, 29-21 was the score at the break. But then Lake Catholic made a couple of halftime adjustments and really rolled in the second half, only allowing the Red Devils to score 12 points in the second half on their way to a 20-point, 61-41 win on the road. We have Mooney with no problems with Brookfield, 63-23. The final score there. Mooney gets the win. Valley Christian goes on the road and is able to get the upset over Mapleton, 60. I'm sorry, that's a 5. My vision. Fights hard against Mapleton, but loses 54-50. The final score there. Crestview falls to Southeast on the road, 58-49. The final score there. Newton Falls goes to Kirtland, and they fall by 7, 69-62. Grand Valley on the road against Hillsdale, and that final score was 70-54. Hillsdale with the win. McDonald and Western Reserve for the third time this season, and for the third time this year, Western Reserve gets the best of McDonald, this time by the final score of 40-36. That is a three-peat for Western Reserve. This time they have to do it on the road, so they've won at McDonald twice this year, and they get the win 40-36. Hearing the comments from Joe Shrinsky after the game, it was apparent that Western Reserve was kind of tired of hearing it's hard to beat a team 3 times. I mean, they took that personally a little bit. They just felt like, hey, we have the advantage in this matchup. We're the better team, and no matter how many times we have to beat them in a row, they felt like they had the advantage, and they said, hey, 3 in a row, 5 in a row, 7 in a row, doesn't matter. We're better. And they went out and proved it, 40-36. They just very confident bunch in Western Reserve in this game. And they proved it on the road. Big win for them. Mr. Classic, who we've had on the YSN player profile rotation, he had a big game for Western Reserve. Lowville at home falls to Open Door Christian, 56-45, the final score there. And then in the one girls basketball game up in Division 1, district championship between Medina and Hoban. And it is Medina that got this win 49-32. And, if you watch this game on ysnlive.com, you saw very quickly that the shots just weren't falling for Hoban. I mean, they must have had 20 plus shots in the paint that just would not go. They'd rim out, they hit the back rim, they hit too hard off the glass. It's one of those days where it just wasn't going Hoban's way at all. And then some turnovers got the bugaboo. Medina plays an extended 3-2 zone. It's one that you don't see too often. It's kind of inverting of the 2-3. They put pressure on the guards and they try to get into passing lanes when they extend it like the way they did. And they've been playing, you watch Medina film, and I watched them against Hudson in the district semifinals up there in Ravenna. They it's not new. They play it all the time, but it was just one of those things that's really hard to scout. It's really hard to prepare for. And turnovers really hurt Hoban, as well as just missing shots and not being able to score. Their defense played, pretty well. A lot of those points that Medina scored were late. With just foul shots and Hoban trying to extend the game, trying to hold on to hope. So I think realistically and in game action, you could probably say they held Medina to 40 points, which is pretty good. I mean, your defense is playing well, but the offenses could not get rolling enough, couldn't get the shots to fall, couldn't get into rhythm. Turnovers hurt with that as well. And Hoban, the 1 seed, falls in the district championship once again by the final score 49-32. The Bees move on. They are actually hosting a regional now, as they will go on to the Medina region and play on their home court for a regional final. How much do you believe in home court advantage? I don't know, but if you're a firm believer that it's an advantage to be on your home floor, a lot of people might say, hey, why is a Division I host having a Division I region like that? That shouldn't be in the cards. Medina maybe should be in a different region. A lot of people are arguing that. I, for one, at this level, when you're that good, it's not like there's a different feel to your court or a different look. Your home team is going to look. Crowds travel to regionals. We've seen that every one of our YSN teams, when they go to regionals, they bring a huge crowd, no matter where it is. Like when you get into regionals, your fans, your students, your support system, that will follow you. So, maybe Medina gets a few more fans because they're home, and a lot of people can just make that decision to go. I'm not a big component in seeing it's a huge advantage to say Medina hosts the regional, but it is happening, and a lot of people, from the outside, maybe a little bit irked by it. It doesn't matter though, because there's no change in it. Medina goes into the regional, and they will host it. Let's jump into Saturday, where we flip it and we go to a lot of girls district championships and Division 1 boys sectional championships. We'll start with the girls this time around. West Branch goes to Nordonia in the district championship game against the 10th seed Laurel Gators, and they fall 51-39. Laurel has the number 3 sophomore in the country in Sanaya Hall, who went off for 29 points in this game. First chance to see her live, and my word, does it not disappoint. I mean, if she's number 3, it's hard to figure out who number 2 and 1 are. Howland goes and loses to Copley, who was the 2 seed in Division 2. Final score was 50-36. Howland put up a pretty good fight. It was close for a long time. Copley pulled away late. The 2 seed the 2 seed in Division 3, Keystone. They proved why they were that seed as they outlast Crestview in overtime, who was the 3 seed. Both these teams were undefeated. Someone had to lose, and it went into overtime. It was a heck of a game, but the Wildcats in Keystone get the win and go to regionals. 40-33, the final score. Crestview only scores 1 point in the overtime period. Springfield and their experience in the tournament pays off as they're able to win another district championship, make it 3 in a row for Springfield now, as they win 52-49 over Warren JFK. Buzzer beater to get them there, and then another close game right down the stretch as they're able to win a district championship game. But Dom O'Brien caught up with Jamaica Brungard after, who had 33 points in this game, by the way. Wow, what a performance from Brungard. But she was talking, and she's right. They played close games all year long. They've been on the wrong end of close games. They've been on the right end of close games. And I think Coach Matisse feels really comfortable when it gets down the stretch and the Tigers have to make a play, because they've proven to themselves, hey, this is what we don't do. And, in games like the Poland game, in games like the Crestview game where they lost by 2, Poland, they lost in overtime. Hey, this is what we don't do in these situations. This is what we learn. And then in games like the Western Reserve game that went to overtime and they won, hey, these are the plays we make. These are what we do. I'm childish. I'm sorry. This is what we do to win. And Springfield knows how to win. Obviously, they're 3-time reigning district champions. That is the best run their girls program has ever been on. They made their regional finals and regional championship for the first time last year in program history. Went to Dayton, lost a lot. I mean, they returned Jamaica Brungard and Ava Vecchione and Marina Toscano for sure. They returned quite a bit, but they also lost Maddie Lesnack and JC Mullen. There was a lot of people that were looking at this team going, okay, that was your window. You got to state. You had some impressive seniors. You had YSN Player of the Year, JC Mullen, on your team. But, you can't sustain this. And those players, the one senior, Ava Vecchione, who is averaging double figures on the season, stepped up and just said, hey, you know what? Maybe we don't look the same. Maybe we don't do things the exact same way, but we're still winners. We know how to win. And Springfield, going back to the regionals in Maslin Perry, where they have won it last year and they got to the finals. They got to the semifinals the year before. So Western Reserve, they fell to Richmond Heights 24-20. A lot of controversy out of this game. We'll talk about that after we get through the scores. There's a lot of things I want to kind of talk about when looking at these scores after we get through the housekeeping of going over the final scores. But Richmond Heights does get the win 24-20 over Western Reserve. And then the 1 seed in Division 2 just proved why they were the 1 seed. 66-23. They beat Canfield. This game kind of scared me because on, Wednesday, when St. V's played, they beat Marlington, but they did not play their best game. And they were sloppy. They were undisciplined. They let Chelsea Evanich score 30 points. They fell down 7-0 to start. They did not start well. I knew they were going to be coached up very hard in their 2 days of practice. And they have a very talented coaching staff. I knew they were going to be like, okay, guys, let's tighten things up. Anytime you have a really, really good team play not well and survive, that very next game, that's danger time, because they're going to be super locked in. They're not going to let that happen again. So I think Canfield was maybe watching that game going, oh, man, I wish they would have played perfectly or played very well in that Marlington game, won that game, and then come into our game with a little bit of that, lackadaisical, we're the 1 seed attitude, but it did not happen. St. V's was right on point. They started off hot from the start, 19-4 after 1 quarter. This game was in the bag as soon as St. V stepped on the floor, because they were not going to have the start they did against Marlington. Marlington did not go well to start the game. They had to call a timeout early. It was 7-0. Could have been a lot worse, honestly. Marlington had a couple of good looks that did not fall. Could have been 10-0. Could have been 14-0 before that timeout was called. So they call that timeout. They go on the big run. But still, throughout the game, Marlington would not go away. They couldn't stop Chelsea Evanich. They couldn't keep her off the right hand. I mean, if you watch Chelsea Evanich as much as we do on YSN, and as much as I'm sure local teams do, her dominant side is right. She loves to go to her right. She finishes well from her right. And St. V's knew that too, and they just could not. It was like she had 3 right hands, and she just find ways to get to her dominant side, because that's how good of a player she is. But they had no answer for her. And that kind of made me think, okay, well, Canfield has some size in the guard position too. But this time around, that defense for St. V's was locked down. Obviously, they let Canfield have 23 points, and this just wasn't going to be the day where Canfield could get a win against St. V's. Maybe if they played like they did on Wednesday, they would have had a shot. Because I think they're more balanced than Marlington, so they might have been able to take advantage of some of the mistakes that St. V's was making a lot more than Marlington could have. But not in this game, not when they were locked down. When St. V's is playing like that, where they're moving the ball so well, their offense is so unselfish. Like the biggest compliment I can make for St. V's this year is they are extremely talented, but extremely unselfish. They don't have the talented attitude where I have to score, I have to go, I have to make the ego, I have to make the big play. They have a lot of girls that probably could score 20, 30 points a game if they just isolated and just said, I'm going to take it to the rack and, whatever happens, happens. This is my game. But they are so unselfish. They move the ball so well. And because of that, they have a couple of players average double figures. And instead of one girl averaging 26, 27 points per game, they have three girls that are averaging, 13 or 14 points per game. A lot harder to defend when you have unselfish play like that. So St. V's, congratulations. They're a fun basketball team to watch for sure. And they will advance into the regionals in Barberton. They're going to play Streetsboro, who has another pretty impressive, talented player. We talk about the sophomore in Sienna Hall from Laurel in Division II. Streetsboro has Naomi Benson, who is one of the players I think she's a junior, if I'm not mistaken. But she can go anywhere she wants. She's going to be a Division I player by a long shot. Let's go into the boys' game, sectional finals down there. Hoban against Boardman. Hoban gets the win by a final score of 63-46. But Boardman's defense, I think, played really well in this game. They've been hanging their hat on defense all year, and for a long time it was keeping them in it. But unfortunately for Boardman, just not enough offense to go on the road and get the upset this time around. Fitch gets the win in overtime over Walsh Jesuit, 74-69. The final score there. East Liverpool at home, no problems with Zanesville, 79-59. They get the win. And then last but not least, Louisville ends their home season with an 86-38 win over Akron Firestone. Also in this game, Hayden Nigro became the all-time leading scorer at Louisville. How about this for Louisville basketball? You have Brooke Heron on the girls' side break the all-time career scoring record, and then you have Hayden Nigro on the boys' side break it. You don't see that too many times where you have someone on both sides that is the literal once-in-generation talent for a school, where it's, we haven't seen someone like this ever before in this school, and it's happening at the exact same time with Brooke Heron and Hayden Nigro. So, man, what a time to be a Leopard, right? What a time to be in Louisville. We're happy they're back on the Ysn family, and they advance into the district semifinals this week. Now, unlike the girls, where it'll be the girls were like, hey, Division III is on Wednesday. Every game's going to be played on Wednesday. In the districts, the boys are spread out a little bit because they're going to have one game per night at the host instead of the girls' way, where it was one game at 6, one game at 7:30. The boys have the one headliner game at 7 per night. So, there's going to be 2 games at Salem, for example, tonight and tomorrow. 2 games at Warren Harding. Louisville is the host. NDCL is a host. Everyone's going to have 2 games, 2 nights for these district semifinals. So we will go over that schedule here in a bit. But first, I want to take down the scoreboard for a minute and just talk about some of the things that have come up with these scores, some of the conversations that have come up with these scores. And when I'm looking at it, and the first thing I want to talk about is this Richmond Heights Western Reserve game. If you were there, you saw one of the things that drives people nuts about high school basketball. You saw one of the strategies of, hey, they're playing a very soft zone that doesn't allow us to hit driving lanes and is designed to keep us out of the paint. Richmond Heights obviously loves to be in the paint, And Western Reserve knew that. So it was one of these cat and mouse games where we want your zone to come up so we can get inside. And the Western Reserve said, well, we're not going to extend our zone. You're going to have to come inside to beat us. And when that happens, it's one team holding the ball for a long, long time while the clock ticks. And it's just a battle of wills, I guess you could say, because you're just sitting there and it's like, hey, is that zone going to extend and come out and give us ball pressure and risk us being able to beat it off the dribble and drive inside? Or are they going to stay where they're at and make us come to them to score? And it ended up being the Western Reserve zone would not budge, and Richmond Heights was able to hold the ball for basically the whole third quarter. They win this game 24-20. They had 21 points at halftime. They only scored 3 points in the second half because they held the ball for almost the whole third quarter and a lot of the fourth quarter. It brings up the shot clock conversation in high school basketball. I know a lot of us at YSN were kind of arguing in the text, we need a shot clock. Here's my take on this game. Shot clock or not, obviously this would never happen with a shot clock. But there's a lot of logistics to go with having a shot clock. Here's my take. If you're Western Reserve, you're down in the game. If you're going to sit and say, well, they shouldn't be able to hold the ball for that long, you have to go up and defend the ball. Like, you have to just, at some point, you have to go and put pressure on the ball. You have to be able to say, okay, like, let's strap up. Let's go play defense a little bit. You sit back in a soft zone. If you don't put pressure on the ball, you're just not going to win games. And in my take of it is, no matter who's playing, we've seen this happen before in tournament games. I saw it happen a couple of years ago as a spectator in the Columbiana-Salem game down in Struthers when Salem was Division III and Columbiana was 2. And it was the same thing. Salem had a really good zone. They had a lot of height. Columbia, I don't know why I keep saying Canfield because they've played each other 2 years in a row probably. Columbiana was a guard team with Caleb Maslowski, and they were guard oriented. They like to use their speed to get into the paint and drive. And Salem just packed it in and said, you know what, we're not gonna let you do that. Columbiana held the ball for the whole second quarter, and then they missed one shot. They had one shot in the whole second quarter. They ended up losing that game down the stretch. But the difference in that game for Salem was they were winning, right? So they could afford to say, okay, if you want to waste your time while we have the lead, you go right ahead. But Western Reserve is down by 6. At some point, I feel like you have to go and defend the ball. You can't let a team hold the ball for the whole quarter. You can't afford it, because if you let them, they can do it. There's no rule against it in high school basketball in the state of Ohio. There are states where they have a shot clock. There are some states that still don't. So my take on it, when I was texting the group, I was like, hey, if you want to stop people from holding the ball for 7+ minutes, you can sit there and cry about a shot clock, or you can just go and put pressure on the basketball. There are ways to keep people from driving without having to sit in a very soft zone that packs it in. Like, if that's the only way you can stop people from driving in on you, then you're not going to win very many games after the district anyway. So my take, like I said, my take is go play defense. That'll stop them from holding the ball for 7 minutes. But I get why watching that makes people say we need a shot clock, so that can't happen. But my argument is it won't happen too if you just stop the team from being able to do that. And that's what I had to, especially when you're down. That was the thing that was nuts. So that game got slowed down as an understatement. 24-20. Once again was the final score. Richmond Heights will go on to play Springfield. Springfield is a different defense. They will not let you hold the ball for 7 minutes. I guarantee that much for sure. We go into the other conversation I wanted to have with West Branch and Laurel playing each other. Laurel is one of the most talented teams that you'll ever see. And they've been talented. Last year, they were talented and young and undisciplined. And eventually that caught them in the butt. I think it was Chippewa that beat them in the regional finals, if I'm not mistaken. Chippewa was a more well-rounded team. They had better discipline, better attitudes. They just They outworked them. They out-hustled them. They played better as a unit. And Laurel grew a lot from, I think, that game. Because when I was watching them against West Branch, they weren't undisciplined. They weren't making, silly mistakes. They were still a team that wasn't necessarily balanced on offense. You had one girl score 29 in Sanaya Hall, and the next highest score was 6. But what I liked about it was there were 3 girls with 6 points, 2 girls with 5 points. Everyone kind of chipped in here and there, and those shots were big. Like, there were some shots that were like West Branch starting to creep in. They make it like a 7-point game, and then a girl hits a 3, and it's back to double digits, right? So the other players scored when they needed to. They scored enough to chip in with Sanaya Hall scoring 29, and they did the right things. Laurel is very talented. Now, there's a lot to be said about this Laurel school. If you don't know out of Shaker Heights, it's a girls-only school. It is a private school. It is one of those schools where you have to pay a substantial amount out of your pocketbook to go into that school. And they do have they do have students, I should say. This is across the whole student body. I've done my research because I looked into it. Across the whole student body, athlete or not, because it's an all-girls school. They have all the girls athletes, all the girls sports, I should say. So athletics or not, they have people from around the, surrounding states that want to come to Shaker Heights Laurel because it's one of the top all-girls public schools in this region of the country, right? When you grade them from academics, that's one of the things you see on their website that they advertise. I think they're the top all-girls public school, private school in the state of Ohio, and they're one of the top ones in like the region of the country. So a lot of people want to go to Laurel, not just for athletics, but a lot of people want to get there for what they provide as just a private school, academics and the career paths they let you go into. But you have to pay a lot, and that means that there are athletes that are coming to that school from different states. That irks people. That rubs people the wrong way. It kind of feels like a glorified AAU team that you're playing. And it's tough. It's tough to swallow when you lose to a team like that. It is, and especially when you're a public school that if you get transfers, it's from like the next county over. You're not bringing people in from Florida and, Kentucky to play basketball for you. That's not happening. So it's hard when you go up against a team to kind of try to get past that and just say, hey, it's basketball. They're working hard. Like they're doing everything they have to do in the gym. They've obviously grown a lot from last year to this year. So I'm not going to take anything away from Laurel by saying that they go out and the players come to them for what their school provides, because obviously their school provides a ton. Like they're one of the top academic private all-girls schools in the region of the country. They provide a very valuable service for some people that want to send their daughter to that kind of environment. So I'm not going to take anything from Laurel away from that, because obviously you still have to work extremely hard to be this good at basketball, right? You still have to put your time in the gym, put your work in. Their school schedule, I imagine, is very tough, because if you're that good academically, then I'm guessing your curriculum is not exactly easy. But I understand, like there's a lot of rumbling right now because it's this private versus public that has been circling around high school sports seemingly forever. It's died down a little bit since open enrollment, because now, of course, it evens the ground a little bit. And if you're saying that like there are no public schools out there that don't benefit from bringing a player in, you can't say that anymore, because now it happens a lot more often than it used to. And it has kind of watered down that conversation a little bit. But when you're playing a team like Laurel, who is getting students from not just the region of the state of Ohio, but the region of the country, because once again, very good school. It's easy to draw down that path of, wow, how do we compete against a team that can, go grab one of the top basketball players from Michigan and they can come play basketball for Laurel, or I don't even know if I'm just throwing out states, by the way. I have no idea where these players are from. I just know that there are some players on the team that weren't born and raised in Ohio. So I'm just throwing out states, but that's the point. Like, it's hard to wrap your head around that we have to play a team like that. But at the end of the day, You do. I mean, it's not the only place in Ohio that's like that. Gilmore Academy, Western Reserve Academy, they're both just examples of schools that are in this kind of the same category where they're elite in the sense where people want to come to them and you have to pay quite a substantial, out of your pocketbook to get there. So Gilmore Academy just, they got into the regionals. Western Reserve Academy was a very good basketball team. Actually beat St. V's in the regular season. You're going to run into these schools. You're going to run into these schools in every state. Every state has them. It's a reality. If you're going to win the state championship, you have to beat them. Last year, Doylestown Chippewa found a way to beat them. Like they beat them, right? So it's not saying that you can't beat these teams. They're not unbeatable. They're not this unbeatable, unmovable force. You're going to have to find a way to just, be better that day. And West Branch had their chances. I'm not sitting here and saying that they were so much better than West Branch that this was an unfair game. West Branch shot 50% from the free throw line. They had a couple of good looks that wouldn't go. Sophie Gregory did everything she could. 24 points, had 3 blocks against Sanaya Hall, which is probably more than any player had blocked her all season, in my guess. Played really good defense against her despite scoring 29. There were a lot of those shots that she hit that were just, you make the toughest shot possible. And then if she hits it, she hits it. And she hit it because she's the number 3 player of the sophomore class of the country. The point I'm trying to make in all this talking is at the end of the day, when you're going to have this conversation about private versus public, you have to realize that eventually in life, whether it be in athletics, whether it be just life in general, you are going to run into someone that might have a little bit more of an advantage over you for whatever reason. But you can either use that as just an excuse and say, this isn't fair. I can't believe I went up against this person that has a lot more money from their family, so they got this job opportunity, yada, yada, yada. Or you can just find a way to push yourself to get to their level, raise the bar, and be better. West Branch did a really good job of that. They were on Laurel's level. They played really well. They played a good basketball game. They fell. Not because Laurel was just so much better than West Branch. Oh my gosh, this is unfair. It was just, some things in basketball that didn't go West Branch's way, but I thought West Branch belonged on that floor. I think West Branch could have beat Laurel. They play each other 10 times. I think West Branch probably wins 5 or 6 of those games. I wouldn't be shy to say that. It's just one of those things, like you're going to run into these teams. There are teams like that in the whole state of Ohio that you're going to run into. There are some public schools that are the same way, that have just been good for a long, long time. And because of that, there are players that want to come play for them. It's the reality of high school sports now. It's trickling in to kind of the college conversation. Transfer portal in college obviously is, to some people, out of control. It's the busiest it's ever been. And now with open enrollment in high school, we're seeing more transfers than we've ever seen in high school. And because it's allowed, because it's a thing that you can do, you still have to sit for half the season unless you move to the district. But there are public schools that have been very good programs for a long time that are getting players that want to come play for them. Apple Creek Waynedale is a great example. Maslin Jackson is another one that comes to mind. You look at, Kirtland football and what they're able to do up in Mentor. There's a lot of programs that are public schools that have been strong and tradition based. And because of that, they draw people. And that's just the reality of the day. You can either make excuses or go beat them. And then, or at least not beat them, but you make excuses or go and compete against them. And I think West Branch did a really good job of just zeroing out the noise. They could have just said, you know what, this is a Laurel team that has the one of the top players in the country. They're a glorified AAU team. We're not going to win. Let's not even try. Let's just go out there and have fun and whatever. They didn't have that. They went out there and they fought their tails off against a team that, talent-wise, from player to player, probably a lot better. Just raw talent. And that's not That's not a diss on West Branch, but they don't have the number 3 player in the sophomore class of the country, right? They don't. And some of those other players that are all sophomores and freshmen on Laurel, might not be top 3 in the country, but they're highly recruited, highly doubted players. Tristan Williams averages 14.3 per game, and she's one of the top players in her class. And they have other players that don't score a lot because Sanaya Hall scores 26.4 per game, but play really, really, really talented basketball. So West Branch competed really well, and they deserve a lot of credit for not feeding into the noise of private versus public and not feeding into that lack of competitive spirit that goes into just, hey, this team might be full of talented players, but hard work can equal that. And there was no sense of lack of hustle on West Branch's side of the floor ever. They fought till the end. Sophie Gregory put up a monster game. Olivia Showalter, who played really well, especially in the first quarter, was giving Laurel problems in the paint. That's what they did. They just said, hey, we're going to go and compete against this team. And I thought that was a very awesome thing to see West Branch do. And I have no surprises at all, because that's the kind of thing that Walter Shields is able to do. One last thing. I know we're kind of talking too much. We want to get to Marina Koenig's profile, and we will. But you know what? I think I've talked too much. We have plenty of time. Tomorrow we'll only have a couple of games to recap. We can go into. I still want to talk tomorrow about the reason why we're seeing a lot of teams not make the regionals like we did last year, and it's pretty simple. I'll give you a teaser. It's because districts are bigger, and these teams that we would see in the regionals now we see in districts, and there are a lot of good teams in Northeast Ohio. It's that simple. So we'll talk more about that tomorrow, but I do want to make sure we get to Marina Koenig's profile, because we promoted it and we promised we'd have it, and I want to get it. So here's Marina Koenig from Canfield girls basketball, the last player profile of the season from that program. Anthony Hartwig here with a Canfield girls basketball player profile. I'm joined by junior Marina Koenig. Marina, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today.
Thank you for having me.
You got it this year. It's been an awesome year for Canfield so far. You're about to play in the district championship tomorrow. First question for you is, with all the seniors that you guys graduated last year and a lot of the new faces that you guys had to either see or step into bigger roles this year, what's it been like for you as an upperclassman to see the team not miss a beat and go through some adversity and come out here and still be able to compete for a district championship?
Yeah, it's really great seeing everyone's growth this season. I mean, we've all grown so much, and just like being able to get this far with everyone and like getting Cami Dale and Jenna back, it's just been really great.
Yeah, I kind of made the joke yesterday after your win on Wednesday nights. This team seems like it's kind of put together with duct tape right now. People are just fighting through injuries, fighting through health issues, just kind of giving it everything they have. As a teammate, seeing girls play that way, what's that do for you and firing you up to know that, like, my teammates are giving me everything they have to try to win on the floor?
Yeah, it's seeing them like play through those injuries and everything. I mean, it really gives us all the motivation to all be there for each other and like step up even when they can, or everyone just doing their job and like stepping up. It's really great to see everyone be able to do that.
When we're talking about players that have bigger roles this year than they did last year, you're one of those players stepping into an upperclassman role. More leadership asked of you, more time on the floor asked of you. How have you been handling the transition from last year basketball to this year?
At the beginning of the season, it was a lot more difficult. That's for sure. Went through a couple rough patches, but just kind of like everyone's support and like our teammates and the seniors and everything, they just make everything so much easier, like all the transition and everything. So being able to like really help out in these later games in the tournament has been really fun.
We know you were a big part of the softball team that went to the state finals last season. How much did that experience help you come into basketball season with the right mindset, knowing what the work ethic is, and trying to share kind of some of the tools that got you and the team to state with some of the basketball players that aren't on the softball team?
Yeah, definitely the team chemistry. I think that really transferred over, like especially with the ones who played softball. I mean, everyone is there to kind of support us like throughout the journey. But like even playing like big moments, like softball season definitely helped with that. Like especially during the district final or semifinal game, like that was a pretty big moment for all of us. And I think we all had that experience that we could just like settle down and like don't let the moment kind of like take over.
I got the chance to call some of your games at the beginning of the season, call some of your games obviously late in the season, was at that district semifinal game. The growth that I've seen from you as a player, it's really evident on the court. From your perspective, how much have you grown throughout the season, just in practices and in games when you look at yourself and how you started this year?
It's definitely been a huge step forward. And I mean, I couldn't have done it without our seniors and my teammates, my coaches, and everything. It's just like seeing all like the support from everyone else, like even when I didn't believe in myself, like, and everyone else did, that really helped push me forward and like really helped me make the steps that I have made this year.
So you say there were moments where you were struggling with confidence, not believing in yourself. I'm wondering what got you through that and what got you personally to start believing in yourself more.
My teammates, like before games, like we'd all talk to each other and like, I mean, there was one game like Jenna helped me a lot and like Coach Krista too. So it's just like everyone's support and like everyone's belief in each other is just like that helps immensely. And just like everyone supports each other and just like being able to go on the court and just be like, just make something happen and support your teammates and just do everything you can in your power to win and just to help the team out.
I think every athlete gets confidence in different ways. Like one thing that someone tells someone is going to work in different ways. What are things that people say to you that get you confident and that you actually buy when they tell you? What are those things that you need to hear when you're struggling with your confidence?
Um, Something I mean, I don't want them to tell me that I'm doing great when I'm not. So it's like them being just straight up with me and then just kind of like having the confidence in me that like when I do get in the game, they know that I'm going to do the right thing or at least try to do the right thing. So, I mean, I think that kind of confidence, it's like, I know you're trying, like do your best, everything like that. That really gets me to like take the pressure off my shoulders a little bit and help me do a little bit better.
No matter what sport you play, you're being coached by legends in the sport, and Matt Reel is no different. He's been at Canfield for a while. He coached even before he was in Canfield. What's it like to be under Matt Reel, and what kind of things has he helped you with as a basketball player the last 3 years now?
Yeah, Coach Real has been a huge impact, like especially on in basketball. Like he really talks to us like he makes it fun and like he coaches us to like a point that like we didn't know we could go and like he helps implement things in our playing and everything we do. It just like it really helps and it helps slow the game down a little bit. And when we get in those game situations, it's not as like intimidating as it is in practice. And I think that really helps.
We only get to see him on the sideline. Seems pretty calm, cool, and collected during a game. Is he always like that, or does he let himself loose a little bit in practices?
There's sometimes he lets loose, but I think that's the same with all coaches.
What is one thing that you could say about Matt Reel that you think people don't know just from watching him on the games? What's like some inside information that you can tell us about Coach Reel?
He's really funny. His jokes make me laugh pretty hard, and sometimes you don't catch them until like a couple minutes after, and then you just find yourself like chuckling to yourself after you figure it out.
Let's talk about, things that you want to see yourself continue to improve on. You're a junior this year. Obviously, you have one more year next year. You're going to be a senior. You're going to be one of the leaders of the team. What have you been doing this year to prepare yourself for the big leadership responsibility that you're going to face next year?
I think really just like learning from all of our seniors and like how they deal with like adversity and different situations and like how they like respond to it like emotionally, physically, everything else. Just like that kind of response is what I'm kind of picking up and like really learning from them. And like honestly just like the work ethic too. Like all of our seniors have like a huge work ethic and just like how they take care of themselves and like the game and our team and everything.
We're talking about getting ready for basketball next year. What about getting ready for all the other stuff that comes with senior year? College decisions, career path, future decisions. Have you thought about that at all yet? Or are you kind of trying to put that off until senior year?
I've thought about it a little bit, but I mean, my sister went through the same thing last year and everything, so it's like I have an idea, but it's just like I'm letting it go. I'm just gonna enjoy this year, and then, whatever happens next year happens.
We love athletes' nicknames. Do you have a nickname on the team? Do you have something that people like to call you?
Um, I'm kind of like Rena. That's like my
Mhm.
nickname, kind of, or like Reen, Ree. I mean,
Mhm.
Macy calls me a couple different things, but like she comes up with random things for like softball too. She calls me Ree. Grace calls me Reener Wiener. It's just like, and a lean. Like she's a leaner.
You gotta have them for softball, especially. It does
You have
you
to.
can't. Since you come from the softball world as well, I gotta ask about superstitions because it feels like softball players are more superstitious than others. Do you have superstitions on the basketball court that you like to keep?
I do. It's like the way that I tie my shoes. Like I have to be super tight. My hairstyle like has to be a ponytail. Like I've tried a couple braids, but it doesn't really work. So I have to keep my regular ponytail and everything. Everything has to be the same.
Do you go as far as saying you're using the same hair tie all season 2 for the ponytail, or do you switch those out?
I haven't changed it. No, I use
Not
the same
once.
one.
Knew it. Knew it. What about routines just to get yourself in the right mental mindset before a game? Like, what are your pregame mental routines that you have to get yourself into that zone?
Well, I usually on the ride to like either if it's on the bus or like to the school, like I usually listen to like the same songs, the same playlist. Then like during the JV game, we kind of joke around, like kind of get into it with like everything, but we kind of like joke around, loosen up a little bit. And then when we get in the locker room, it's time to focus. We get stretched out, listen to music and everything. We talk about our game plan. But yeah, that's pretty much our routine to that effect.
How much does getting ready for a basketball game for you compare to like the hour and a half before softball? Do you find yourself using the same kind of things to get yourself in that zone, or is it a little bit different getting ready for a softball game for you than a basketball game?
I think with basketball, it's more like team oriented. Like we all talk to each other and like, because it's before a JV game too, so we all sit there and like watch it, especially like during the regular season. So we all help each other get in the zone. But then for softball, it's like you're hitting off the tee by yourself, and like you have your AirPods in, like you're listening to music, like you end up like playing catch and everything. But I think softball, it's more individual, like getting ready for me personally. And for basketball, it's more of like you feed off your teammates to kind of get focused and everything.
All right, so you guys won a district last year, but now, well, like we said, you're a much bigger part of the team. You're getting more minutes this year. What would a district championship this year mean to you, considering all of that, considering that feel like you have a lot more say in what happens on the floor?
Yeah, it's definitely a lot more like nerve wracking, but seeing the game last year, it was really fun to watch and just like be a part of, even if I wasn't on the court. But it's just like at this point, you just want to do it for your seniors, and you want to get them that medal and everything, all the work that they've put into it. You want to get that for them.
All of the big games that you've played in, do the nerves ever go away? I mean, you're going into a district championship. Do you still get nervous before the game?
Definitely. Before every game, I get nervous. Like a little feel in my stomach, I get nervous a little bit.
How fast does it go away? Because some athletes say as soon as the ball goes up, it's gone. First shot they make, it's gone. When does it kind of go away for you, or does it ever go away for you?
Probably the first possession. Like after we get the ball in, first possession, I'd say the nerves kind of go away, especially if like I'm coming off the bench. It's a lot easier to get those nerves away when you're coming up. But yeah, and maybe even after halftime a little bit. There's a little bit there, but after the first possession, I'm locked in.
Numbers are so important to players. You're number 5. Is there a story behind being number 5? Is there a reason why you picked it, or is it just one of the jerseys you got stuck with?
No, I've actually always been number 5 for as long as I can remember. I've always been number 5 for basketball. I don't know why, but it's kind of it crossed over with softball too. I used to be number 8, but when I came into high school, I was number 5, and so now I'm just 5 for both sports.
Right in that middle, got to be
Mhm.
right in the middle. Marina, one of the things that we want to do before we let you go is obviously give you the chance to thank the people that are in your life that are supporting you that you wouldn't be here without. I want to give you the time as much as you want to give your shout outs out and thank the people that are kind of in your corner.
Yeah, obviously my teammates, couldn't have done anything without them. Like the confidence they've given me, the support they have, and all of my coaches from middle school up until now, they've done everything for me, made me the player that I am today. My parents for always supporting me, my siblings, and then my dad especially for going up to the gym with me to shoot, and those countless hours we spent just being there, getting some shots up, and like game like repetition and everything like that. So yeah.
All right, Marina, we want to thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. We appreciate it. We wish you the best of luck tomorrow in the district championship game against St. Vincent St. Mary, and we look forward to talking in real soon.
Thank you.
That was Marina Koenig from Canfield, the junior on their basketball team. We'll be able to see her a lot on the softball field as well, as now she is able to transition from basketball to softball after their basketball team loses in the district championship to Akron St. Vincent St. Mary. We have 3 district semifinals on the network tonight in boys basketball. I'm going to pull up the scoreboard once again while we talk about it. First one is going to be JFK and Hillsdale. Excuse me, sorry about that. But JFK and Hillsdale, that one will be at Grand Valley High School, and Dom O'Brien and Tyler Hart's both going to be on the call. So we'll have JFK's main guy and then Grand Valley's main guy, both on the call for the first time. That should be fun. At Salem, Cardinal Mooney takes on Mapleton. That is a 4 seed versus 17 seed. Eric Hughes and Michael Janaki will have the call for you there. And then last but not least, Western Reserve and Richmond Heights. That one will be at Akron Firestone, and Matt Marr will be on the call there. Excuse me. Matt Marr will be on the call for the Western Reserve game. All games 9-9. I have a tickle. I can't. All games 9-9. All games 9-9 gets you access. Pay-per-view, one payment, 9-9 gets you access to all 3. And I apologize for the way my voice is just cut out in this show. But nonetheless, make sure to check out ysnlive.com. Get your virtual tickets early, so if you have any issues, you can get that figured out before tip-off. All of them are at 7 o'clock, and all of them are covered. We can't wait to recap the games tomorrow. Good luck to all of our YSN schools. Thank you so much for tuning in today to Running Point, brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown. We will be back tomorrow from 1 to 2.